Good day, all you podcasters out there in Podcastville. This is Pastor Rex Johnson, once again coming into your lives. Hopefully, it's a blessed day for you. I've got someone with me today that is the best podcast person I've ever wanted to have on my podcast. I have begged, I have pleaded, I have purchased things. I have bought things for her that were more than I could pay for other people. But at the same time, I finally got her sitting in the seat beside me. I'm talking about my Patti. I'm talking about my sweet pea. I'm talking about the girl of my dreams, the lady that has been the healer of my life. 42 years, God has put her in my life for 42 years, and every year gets better and better and better. She is the best thing that God ever sent to me. So, we're coming on together today, and I'd like to introduce her. Patti, welcome to Pastor Rex's podcast.
Hello, Podcastville, as you say.
I'm so happy to have you. It's an honor to have you out of the house, out of shopping, out of doing things for your grandkids. It's great to have you in this room right now.
That's a part of being grandma.
I know it, and it's fun. There's nothing like it. And I like being grandpa. I like being Bo-Daddy. But I'm happy to have you today, hon. It's an honor to have you. And we're going to talk about something very unique today, something very special that happened in both of our lives about 43 years ago. It's just a great story, and I've been wanting Patti to tell it for a long time. But Patti, why don't you introduce our family, introduce the family that came with us to Austin in 1990. Just kind of describe what we walked in here looking like.
Oh, in 1990, we were much younger.
Yes, we were.
And much less wrinkles. And we had children at home. So now we have an empty nest, so that's not happening. But Misty was about 15, I believe.
That's right.
Cassidy was six or seven. Six, and Kaitlin was 3.
Yeah.
And so we had a young little family. We had them spread out because we had teenage stuff going on, plus we had preschool stuff going on, plus just getting into school, elementary school stuff going on. So, and then coming here to this church that we were thrilled to be at, but had a lot of work to do. So it was a very, very hectic time in our life, but it was awesome. It was fun. It was exciting to see.
And we'd do it all over again.
Oh, yeah, to see the growth not only in our own family, but then the growth in the church and just the fruits of our labor being rewarding.
Yes.
It was a very rewarding time.
Yes.
Hard work, but worth it.
Yeah. And now, 34 years later,
now
we have 9 grandkids.
9 grands.
Plus a granddaughter-in-law.
And they range from 24 down to 3.
Yeah.
So, and all in between. So it's a world that is keeping us very, very busy. Yes, we have a granddaughter-in-law. Our oldest grandson married 3 years ago. So there's now 18 in our family. So we came here with 5, and now there's 18 of us. And
the family has grown.
Yes, and it's fun. Every Sunday night, we try to have them come over if it's all possible, have family night, and it's loud, it's wild, it's hard to get what you want to say out because there's so much, everybody talking over each other.
Everybody's talking at the same time.
Yes,
and
but
the kids are
fun.
riding on their skates and on their skateboards up and down our halls. It's just fun.
It's just kind of wild, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. That's right.
It's a lot of laughter, a lot of fun, a lot of good food and eating and just being with one another. It's kind of our chance to catch up with our family because everybody's lives are so busy.
And it's every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night.
Because that's what you want.
Well, I found out if you will cook, they will come. So I try to cook something that I know everybody's going to love, and they all show up.
That's right.
And
that's right.
We may all be in our PJs or comfortable clothes, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just so we're together.
Yeah.
And that we also share our birthdays on those nights too. When,
Yeah,
when
that's
somebody
true.
has a birthday, they get to pick their
And
meal.
greater than the birthday gifts are the birthday words that we
Yes.
give to them.
So
The words of
everybody gets to
affirmation.
choose
Yes,
their birthday
that's right.
meal
That's right.
and their birthday dessert.
That's right.
And we deliver that. We try to do that. And then after they open gifts, we all go around the room talking about that person. Even the little bitty one, even Everson at 3
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
she'll find something to
Yes.
say about
Indeed.
that aunt or uncle or cousin.
Yeah.
And
Uncle
it's
Damon brings me candy. Yeah.
yeah, it's fun, and sometimes it brings tears, but it just warms our hearts to hear each other talk about each other.
So we're gonna go into a little story here that is has become pretty massive in our lives. Uh, I went into the ministry in 1970, preached my first message in 1970, and that'll be 54 years this August. And 2 years later, I was married to a wonderful lady named Denise Neely, and she and I evangelized some. And then in 1975, we were asked to come to the Dallas First Church and become the pastor. And I was 25, she was 21, and I didn't know how to spell pastor. I really didn't. I didn't know what being a pastor meant. I had never worked for anybody, only in the evangelistic area. But we went in there believing that we could grow a church, and the Lord let us grow a church. But in 1981, Denise was 26. We had two children, Misty, who was 6 years of age, and a little boy named Justin, who was 4 years of age. We were having a celebration weekend, inviting all the people that were ever a part of that church to come back to a celebration weekend.
Homecoming.
A homecoming, yes. And I was on my way out of town to go speak at a church in Oklahoma. Denise and the kids were on their way to the mall and stopped at a red light, and a car came from behind them, clipped the car they were in, pushed her out to an intersection. She was hit in the front side, and gas had come out of the tank of the car onto the car, and the car ignited immediately. And Denise and my boy Justin were instantly taken from this life. Misty, riding in the front right seat, was spared by some men who were working in that area, and so hence myself and a 6-year-old girl started living life without a mom and a brother. Still pastoring, still trying to do the right thing. But something was happening in our lives that we did not know. God was setting up something for us very special in our future. Reminds me of the story in Genesis 22 when Abraham took Isaac to the top of the mountain, and Isaac said, "Dad, here's the wood and here's the fire, but where's the sacrifice?" And Abraham said, "Son, the Lord will provide himself a sacrifice." He became the Jehovah Jireh that day, the provider. And so God had our lives scanned just like he had Abraham and Isaac's life put on record. And I'm going to ask my wife, Patti, who we've been married now 42 years, blissful years, happy years, glorious years. And she's going to tell a story that is fairly unique. It's very unique. And I want all you folks out there to listen up because Patti tells it wonderfully. And every time she tells it, it kind of makes me messed up, even though it's been 43 years since it happened and 42 years of marriage. So, Patti, if you can, just kind of give it all you have and tell the story of what happened on that day of March 13, 1981. What happened?
Yes, that day was like any other day. As a PK, which I am, you do everything at the church.
Yeah.
And my particular job at the time was church janitor. I was the custodian. I cleaned the church. I cleaned the bathrooms. I cleaned the classrooms. I cleaned it all. And it just comes with being a PK. You do it all. But anyway, I was that day at the church, and I was vacuuming inside our church sanctuary. And my brother Brett walked in and stopped me, and he said, I have the most awful news to tell you. And he said, Denise Johnson and Justin were just killed in a car accident. And my heart sank. I just got a pit in the middle of my stomach. I just couldn't believe it. He said Misty was survived, but the two of them were taken. And I just was sick because I loved her. She was a beautiful person, and I'd always looked up to her and admired her. She was a few years older than me, and y'all had preached for us, for my dad, several times through the years, and she always paid attention to me. We talked, and I just thought she was beautiful physically. And then she just was so kind to me and sweet to me, and I just loved her. And so it just, even though we weren't close, but I just felt like she was a dear friend.
Right.
So I remember I got so upset about it. I went into the church prayer room. We had a designated prayer room. And I just knelt down and just started to pray for you and Misty and that whole situation, your church, everything. It's just the ripple effect of this accident. Her family was just terrible. It's devastating. And I remember when I knelt down to pray, that whole year, let me back up a second. That whole year, this was 1981, I felt change coming in my life. In my spirit, I felt like, I don't know. I didn't know if it was going to be a new job. It was going to be, I was going to meet somebody. I didn't know. I just felt change in my spirit was coming. So when I knelt down to pray for you and Misty and everybody involved, it felt like pieces to a puzzle just went into place. And I knew when I knelt down, I was going to marry you. Now that is crazy. I know that. It's crazy to say. It's crazy to hear. But I knew it. I knew it in my heart. If God ever spoke to me, he did that day. And it's all the pieces to the puzzle of my life that I was wondering what was going to happen went into place. And
Here we go. Tears are coming.
I, of course, did not tell a soul. I just kept it in my heart. How do you tell that? I mean, how do you say that? You don't say those kinds of things. But I thought, God, if this is really you, and I know it is, but it's just going to have to play out. It's just going to have to happen without me saying anything, doing anything. You don't need my help, God. If this is you, it's just going to happen. And so as it turned out, I kept that in my heart. I remember going to the funeral in Dallas with my family, and we were sitting in the balcony. The place was packed. You guys had to get another church because your small church would not hold the crowd. Everybody was just so touched by this tragedy. And I remember sitting there in the balcony and watching you and Misty come down that aisle when the family entered in the building and thinking to myself, that's my family. There goes my family. And thinking, this is crazy. But I knew it. I knew it in my heart. And so I did not say a word. We went to the funeral. So fast forward a few months, summer comes, and you were over the youth camps of Texas District, and those took place in Lufkin. And I was asked by some friends of ours, David and Kay Gilbert, to come and take care of their children while they worked the camp. So they had their travel trailer there. I stayed in the travel trailer with their two kids. And of course, during we were there a couple of weeks, that during that time I was seeing you. And in my mind, I'm thinking, God, I know you talked to me, but I didn't know this was going to happen. 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 6 months down the road, I didn't know. I just knew what God told me. And I had never looked at you that way. Of course, you were a married man to a beautiful woman. I mean, I called you Brother Johnson.
Oh, God.
I never referred to you. I would have never called you by your first name. We were taught not to do that. And so I'm thinking, this is crazy, but I know this is what God spoke to me. So as I would see you throughout the week, we would have short little conversations. And one night in particular, I arrived at the night service kind of late and snuck in the back of the tabernacle. And as I walked down the aisle there to find a seat, I saw you. I caught eyes with you on the platform, and you were looking at me. And I noticed it. I didn't think much of it. Well, after service, you found me and you said, hey, you might have seen me staring at you walking down the aisle tonight. He said, because when you walked in, what I was wearing, my hair color, our size was similar. You said, I felt like I saw Denise. And I thought, oh, great. I've brought him sadness. I've brought this all back up again. And so that kind of gave me a sign that, yeah, I think God, this, not that you made any overtures or anything, you didn't. But then we found out that through conversation that I was going to Indianapolis late June to a Bible school friend's wedding. I was in her wedding. And on the way home, me and my two girlfriends were going to stop in Branson just for a few days of just fun before we came home. And lo and behold, you were going to be in Branson at the exact same time with some other friends. And so I said, well, hey, who knows? Maybe we'll run into each other. Well, we get to Branson, and obviously our paths crossed somehow. I don't remember now how we made connection, but Misty ended up staying with us, me and my two girlfriends, in our hotel room.
6-year-old girl.
Yes, and freed you up a little bit. But we ended up going to all the same shows, all the same restaurants. Our groups kind of connected and went together. And everywhere we went, you bought my ticket and you paid for my meal. Not my friends, but mine. And so I'm thinking all along, okay, God, this is starting to happen. I see this.
Tell the reason I did that. There is a reason.
Well, what
You
other
took
reason?
care of Misty.
No,
Yeah.
that was not the reason. Deny. No, that was not the reason.
Take that off the records.
It was all part of God's plan, but we didn't know it. We didn't realize it. And so when we got home, I wrote you a thank you card. And I just said, because he spent some money on me, I said, thank you for all the meals and the shows that you purchased my ticket, and appreciate it so much. Very thoughtful and kind of you. Well, you received that thank you card and you called me and you said, listen, I'm going to be in Houston the next couple of weeks. You were coming to Houston for a Bible quiz tournament to be held at Texas Bible College. Mm-hmm. You said, why don't you get your family together? Y'all come over, and when it's over, we'll go eat, and then y'all can take me to the airport. So I'm realizing this is happening. This is happening. I still haven't told anybody. Still haven't said anything. So we go to my whole family, my brothers, my parents, we all go in the car and pick you up and go to Steak and Ale. Do you remember Steak and Ale?
Yes,
I
took
miss
you there.
those.
I do too.
I loved their.
I do too.
They had the coldest salad bar.
Wine, please.
Yeah, that salad bar was the plates were ice cold. Those little metal plates.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yes.
And they had the best salad bar. So anyway, we went to Steak and Ale and ate, and then we went to Hobby Airport to take you to the airport. Well, when we get to the airport,
9/11.
Of course, yes. Yeah. When we get to the airport, Rex, you asked me to get out and come into the airport. Back then, you could do that. So while you were getting your bags checked or whatever, I was in there with you, and you pulled me aside and you said, okay, this is the deal. I am a father. I'm a pastor. I want to pursue seeing you, but I want to know before we ever start, are you interested? Because you said, I'm not going to date around. I'm not going to date this one. I'm not going to do that. I'm interested in dating you, but I want to know before we go any further, are you interested? And I said, yes, I am. Because I knew, don't start crying.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
And so, anyway, so we planned. Well, I don't think we set the date then, but you said, I'm going to call you and we'll set up a time. So I went back out to the car. And when we got home, I told my parents what had happened to me March 13th earlier that year. Because I saw, okay, this is happening sooner than I anticipated, but it's happening. And so I told my parents the experience I had in that prayer room, and both my parents were crying. My mother was crying, and she said, the same thing happened to me. My parents at the time of the accident were in Lake Charles, Louisiana at a minister's conference. And Mother said that when they got wind of the accident, she knew it in her heart that I was going to marry you. And she didn't tell anybody. She didn't even tell my dad. It's very presumptuous to say something like that.
Yes,
and
it
so obviously I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. So it was a little confirmation there. Not that I needed it, because I knew what God had told me. And so you called me, and my birthday was coming up.
Yeah.
My birthday's August 8th. And you said, okay, let me come and take you out for your birthday. So we planned it out. It was, I don't you remember, it was a Friday or a Saturday? I don't remember, but
The 7th is the 7th.
the 7th of August, that's right. Which, ironically enough, that was Denise's birthday. And I had no idea that we were one day apart in birthday, but a few years. So you came, and you told me first, you said, okay, on the phone, you said, pick out a nice place. I want to take you someplace nice. Well, I say to my mother, what's nice? I mean, I don't want to overdo or underdo. I don't, and she said, no, he's talking about a nice place. He's talking about something like Vargo's. Well, I'd never been to Vargo's. And I said, are you sure? Because I don't want to overdo it, Mom. She goes, no, this is what I know. This is what he's talking about. So I made reservations at Vargo's, never having been there. She had, I had not. And so we go to Vargo's, and we pull on the property. My heart started sinking because it's gorgeous. It's like a park. It's like an estate with park-like grounds, and swans swimming and peacocks strolling all around. And I thought, oh no, I have messed up. He is going to think I am some sort of diva, high maintenance. And we go in, and when it's a verbal menu.
Verbal.
We don't even have prices to look at. It's
just
all verbal.
Product, not prices.
And I was just going, I'm losing right now. I'm losing. And turned out to be, the bill was about $60 that night, which for that period of time was kind of high.
42 years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago, yeah. And
so I thought, oh, I am that, because that's not me. But I was afraid you would think I was some kind of, high maintenance girl that had to have that.
You're sitting here. So.
And so you had gifts for me.
Yeah. Birthday.
You had a perfume. You had a card with $100 in it. And
go ahead.
So when we got home, and I was sitting, I think we were in the car when I was opening a lot of these gifts, and you leaned over like you were going to reach for another gift.
You don't have to tell this part.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. You were leaning back in the back seat and pulling out the card, and you pulled out the perfume. You acted like you were reaching back again, but you weren't. You were reaching over to get a kiss.
That's right.
And that kind of surprised me. Brother Johnson was kissing me on the first date. And so that we've laughed about that a lot through the years. But
even today.
And so we started talking on the phone every day. We started seeing one another in a very short amount of time. When you know. Yeah. And in a very short amount of time, that was August 7th, August 21st. 28th, I'm sorry. 28th.
3 weeks later.
He proposed.
Yeah.
And and I accepted.
At where? Where did I
At Bennigan's, of all places.
Yeah. Not Morton's.
No, and not Vargo's.
Not Vargo's.
But Bennigan's. And so he proposed, and so we were trying to figure out.
You said?
I said yes.
Yeah, okay.
I
hear
said
that.
yes.
All right.
Which I knew all of this was going to happen, but I just didn't know how and when. So after talking with my parents, my dad, was like, because we were ready to do this quickly.
Right.
And he was like, no, you guys need to wait, take some time, make it next year. Don't make it the same calendar year as the tragedy. Make it the next year. So we did. And it was wise. It was the best decision. So February 12th, 1982, we got married, and the Dallas church sent us to Hawaii for our vacation. Meanwhile, I had been going back and forth to the Dallas church to try to, get to know the people. And they were so sweet. They were so kind. They loved Denise, and she was way up here, and rightfully so. But they made room for me.
Yes. And
they were so sweet. They gave us a shower. They took me in and loved me right off the bat. And it was really a cool thing.
Patti, people that love people love all people.
Yeah.
And I mean, they make room for everybody. But they didn't have to make room for you, because you made room for yourself, your attitude, your spirit, your love, and you've still done that.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about you coming into our lives, I say mine and Misty's, is the fact that not only did I get a wonderful, wonderful bride, but my daughter got a wonderful, wonderful mother. And she still thinks she's the luckiest thing that ever lived.
No, I'm the lucky one.
Misty works here at the church, and Patti takes our girls on vacations. They have the girl time. And a few years ago, they went to Nashville to see the Grand Ole Opry, and they were in a cafe and a restaurant eating, and Patti and the three girls, and I got to brag a little bit. All three of our girls are very beautiful girls, and Cassidy and Kaitlin are ours. But Misty was sitting at the table, and the waitress come up and looked at the girl, said, "Mother and daughters?" And Patti said, "Yeah." And the waitress looked right at Misty and said, "I know who you are. I know who you belong to. You look just like your mother." And she was pointing to Misty and pointing to Patti. Patti's not her biological mother. And Misty's life has soared. She has soared because she got compared to the mother that wasn't her mother biologically. And that was a wonderful moment for us all.
It was very sweet. And we all just bust out laughing because here's the two that are genetically tied to me that she didn't even acknowledge. And here's Misty, who's not. And she said, "I know for sure you're her daughter."
Oh, I want you to tell one more story.
Well, I'm going to tell something about Misty since you bring her up. Before we got married, we were out shopping. She and I were in a dressing room. And she said to me,
still 6 years old.
Yes. She said, "Can I call you Mama?" And I said, "Oh, Misty, I would love that, but you don't have to call me that. You had a beautiful mama. And we can come up with another name for me if we need to, because your mother was so special." And she said, "No, I want to call you Mama." And I think I even asked you, "Rex, is that okay? Or should we have another name?" And you said, "No, if that's what she wants to call you." And she was very, she accepted me right off the bat, but she was very, didn't want to be known as the little girl who lost half her family. I can remember going to school and on the first day, and she would tell me on the way, don't tell them that I'm not, I'm not yours, that I'm the little girl that lost. And she didn't want to be known by that.
Right.
And so we never even acknowledged it to anybody. Everybody just assumed she was ours, mine and yours. And she wanted it that way. She wanted to be normal. She didn't want to be known by that sadness, that stigma. And she accepted me right off the bat. She did. She was so sweet. So I had a bonus. I mean, I not only got you, but I got her too. And she has been a delight in my life, very much so.
All of you folks out there, remember this, just remember this, that on the roughest day of my life, March 13, 1981, on the toughest day of my life, the loss of my wife and my little boy, who would be 47 if he were alive today. But on that day, when I thought everything was going down, God had my future already planned for me. He already had somebody waiting for me. That's how God operates. That's how He operates. He had somebody anointed and appointed for my life, for Misty's life, and for the daughters that would come's life, and the fact that we now pastor a wonderful church in Austin, Texas. All that's been preordained and pre-thought. God does not make mistakes. Patti, I want you to close with the story of 1980 at the softball game. I think that's one of the greatest stories and how that came to pass in my life, but not
Yes.
before I came to the wedding.
So there was in the Dallas church, you guys had a softball team.
Champion softball team,
Yeah.
I might add. Not second or third
men.
place, champion softball team.
Make sure we know that.
Yeah.
And when you guys would play the games, the women, the wives would sit in the bleachers and chit chat while you guys are playing, you know. And as women talk goes, sometimes it's a different, weird kind of conversation, but it was told to me that the conversation turned to, if something happened to your husband, would you remarry again? Or if something happened to your wife, would your husband remarry again? And so the women were all, you know, saying what would happen what they thought would happen. And Denise said, if something happened to Rex, I don't think I'd remarry for a long time. She said, I think I would just concentrate on raising my 2 kids and just make them my priority. I don't think I would worry about getting married again. She said, on the other hand, if something happened to me, I know Rex would have to marry. I know he would have to marry quickly because he's not a loner. He's not someone who can be alone. He's not somebody who likes to be alone. And she said, I would want him to marry again. She said, because I know that's what makes him who he is. And she said, y'all are going to think this is strange. She's telling the ladies this. She said, but I have somebody in mind that if something happened to me, I wouldn't mind him marrying. And they're all like, what? That's crazy.
6 months before her passing, yes.
That is so weird. And she goes, I know it sounds really crazy, but it is. She says, y'all don't know her. She said, she's a girl in Houston. Her name is Patti Jones. And she said, I think she would be a great wife to him and a great mom to my kids. So the women that heard this conversation when I came to Dallas and you introduced me to the church, they were just reeling because they remembered, oh, this is the name of the lady. How did this happen? And one of the wives waited till the week of our wedding to tell you this story. She said, Pastor, if you have any doubts about what you're doing, let me dispel any of those and tell you the story of what your own wife, her own words were. And so that was just an unnecessary, but very, very cool stamp of approval that we got even from her voice. We had several things like that that happened that just confirmed it and just made it. I mean, we knew it was already from God. We already knew it was of God. But to hear some of those, it just kind of makes you shake your head and say, okay, God, you do know what you're doing.
When you know you're doing what God wants you to do, you're just happy every day of your life. That's a story. That's our story. Everybody has a story. And that's what you need to write in your life. Write a story. The man that published Peanuts, name was Charles Schulz. And Charles said this. He said, everybody has a story. It'd be great to be able to write your story if you could. And he said, I've chosen to write about a dog and a few kids in a cartoon called Peanuts. And he said, that's what I wrote. What are you writing? So I wanted to share with you folks today on our first podcast back from a few months ago that God put a lady in my life, a personality in my life, a lady that really was and is still today my healer. My healer. She can't tell this story with 2 or 3 people or on a podcast without me bringing tears to my eyes. Bringing tears to my eyes. So the bottom line is that write your story. Enjoy your story because God's got one for all of us. And I know there's people out there that stories would outshine what we've just told you. But remember that God loves us all. He cares for us all, and He wants the very best for us all. I love all you today and all you podcasters out there. Put your handkerchiefs down now. You can quit weeping and start smiling because you see what God has done in Patti and Rex Johnson's life. We love you so much. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. You want to close out something, Patti? You want to say something?
I just want to say that the hand of God in my life has been evident all through my life.
Yes.
And the fact that He brought me to you is more than I could have ever dreamed.
I'm the winner. I am the winner. I'm the winner.
And the children, the girls that He's given us, and then our son-in-laws and our grands. I'm a blessed woman.
Yeah, we have an amazing family. We all love each other.
Lovely church.
Yeah,
That's
great
so
church.
Supportive.
Great church.
I couldn't ask for anything else. God is good.
And we're now senior pastors.
Senior pastors.
Pastor Brad, our son-in-law, married our middle daughter, Cassidy, and they are now the co-lead pastors. And we're just sitting over in the corner waving our hand when he makes a good point and saying amen to it.
Loving this stage.
We're loving it. We're loving it. We're loving it.
We are still very busy.
Yes.
But we don't have near the responsibilities.
Yeah.
And
we have time now for a podcast.
And we have time for a podcast. We have time
Love
for
to all. God bless you. We'll check you next time. Have a great day. Bless you now.